what is the best setup for your Football Manager 26 database? In this video, I'm going to show you how I would set up a save depending on what club I'm going to take charge of, as well as some hints and tips to make sure you are getting the best for yourself out of your database selection. So here we are on the Football Manager screen. I've clicked Start New Game. Then you have Advanced Setup Career. So you click on that, loads the game database. And then when you come into this screen here, you can see this is the current database I'm using for my Let's Play series with AFC Wimbledon, episode 1 coming out later today if you're watching this on day of release. So, for myself, I would make sure first off that I have the nations around where I'm going to be playing. So my save is in England. So straight away I would make sure we have the likes of Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales and Ireland selected, as well as England. Then I always like to load just a few different nations. So I've loaded Germany, France, Spain, Italy, and the reason I'm loading them are they are the big nations. So as I get further forward with AFC Wimbledon, hopefully, and enter the Champions League, I want to be able to see how teams I'm coming up against are currently doing in their league, the likes of Barcelona, AC Milan, Bayern Munich, etc. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at two different setup options you could go with just to make sure that your computer can handle it. Now, if you are playing on a weaker PC and you want to do a save in England, for example, I would probably suggest you just load England and Scotland. Now, the reason you're going to load Scotland is that quite a lot of players will come from the Scottish Premier League or the second tier who are good enough to join clubs in the English pyramid. So I always recommend loading Scotland, but then the rest you don't really have to deal with. So if you just load them two, then again, I always like to make sure I'm loading as far down in each country as well, because you do get a few little wonder kids in there. And you could also set Scotland to view only and not playable, which does save a little bit of processing time. Now, at the bottom, behind my webcam, let me just switch myself over. You will see here, database size, total player count 114,000. I would ignore the estimated speed relaxed because my PC could power NASA, so that's completely wrong. Let me just put it that way. You click on the database size and it keeps defaulting to a medium option there, which is extremely annoying. But if you go to custom always, and now select large to make sure you have the largest available there. Then also in the continent side of things, I always like to make sure I have Europe and South America loaded. Then what I like to do is always make sure I'm selecting players from top division clubs, current international players. In South America, current international, player from top division clubs and players from top clubs. Now the difference here is if a nation doesn't have a league structure, selecting the top clubs will pick the biggest clubs from that country. A great example of that is Africa, because a lot of the leagues aren't built into the game. So the clubs are just sitting there as big clubs. So for example, Ivory Coast. So if you select players from top clubs, that will make sure them players are available in the game, which I can show you now. So we've selected Africa, players from top clubs. We've selected Europe, which is players from all top division clubs. South America, we've selected players from top division clubs, current internationals. I don't think players from top clubs really matters in South America because I think all the nations have leagues built into the game. If the league isn't active, it's still there. If we click confirm, you see our player count has now gone to 126,970. Now on advanced settings, you can select, for example, to remove attribute masking and things like this. I mean, we can take that off just for this video so I can show you. Okay, so now the game is loaded. We can just show you a couple of examples here. So if we'll just select unemployed. I've only got one manager created at the minute. So let's just begin. Okay, let's just save the game. Okay, so a couple of examples we can show you here to show that all players are loaded and how they are. So if we go to Nations, Europe, and we select, for example, Croatia. Okay, go to Croatia and select clubs list. And let's go with this team here. Fourth biggest team in Croatia. When you go to the squad, their whole squad is loaded because we've loaded all players from top division clubs. That gives you the ability there to go into that club and see if you can pick out a couple of absolute gems. Because as you can see as well, 47 players in the youth squad. There's a lot of players to look through around Europe. Now, if we go to Africa, I can give you a good example of why we've loaded from top clubs. We've got Ivory Coast, like I mentioned, Ivory Coast. Now, on the left-hand side behind me, you can see the top clubs in Ivory Coast. Now, they don't have a league, competitions, no information to display. But if we click on them, because they are the biggest club in Ivory Coast, 36 senior players. So we have now activated all the players that are registered at that club in the database, even though we've not loaded the leagues, for example. So it's a really good way to just click the wrong button. It's a really good way to just make sure you are giving yourself more players to choose from. We go to South America, where we loaded all players from top division clubs again. Go to Uruguay, go to Nacional, for example, the biggest club. And you can see here, 21 players in the first team, 28 in the reserves, and 39 in the under 19s. So again, a lot of players. Back to content. I can show you an example of what happens when you don't select anything. So let's go to Asia. And let's go to, for example, go to competition rankings. Let's go to Qatar, the Star League, okay? Third biggest team in Qatar. So the first team only has 18 players, and it's filled with a couple of grayed out players. I mean, it's probably not the best example. Let's take ourselves back out, shall we? Bear with me a second. Let's go to the Jordan Premier League. This one surely is going to be a good example. So we'll go to Al Halil, senior team. Every single player is grayed out. So they have no players. That's the third biggest club in Jordan. Now, if you had selected players from top division clubs, these type of clubs would have players available to view. Now, just remember, the more players you have in the database, the slower the game will run. And the further in you go, the more new gen players the game has to generate. Now, for example, if I load England and Scotland and we just select small database and we remove this, okay? We also remove this. In fact, actually, what we can do is I'm going to show you what I always select now. If I'm managing in the UK, I will always go to regions and select players of nationality and players based in nation, which adds every single player all the way down to you got level 10, level 11 in England, level 5 and 6 in Scotland, full of players. The Welsh 4th tier is full of players. But if I'm managing, for example, if I'm managing in Norway, for example, as soon as go to country I live in, so we go to Norway in the nation selection, and I will always make sure the nation I'm managing in, I have all players from that nation and nationality selected. But if we go small database and just load players from the UK, so I can show you both things at once. Okay, so if we go start unemployed, so let's go again to nations, Africa. Let's go to Ivory Coast. Let's click on Mimosos, senior team. Not a single player is in that senior team. Now if we go to nations, we go to South America, Uruguay again, and let's go to Nacional. So their first team has 2 players. Sebastian Coates, the former Liverpool defender, and Ebere, a 27-year-old who is currently on loan from Plaza Colonia. So you see, the amount of players you have around the world to go and scout, to go and pick up, is very, very minimal in these situations. Now, I did show you that I had added players from the UK. So let's pick a couple of teams, for example. So I was born in a town called Shulden in England. Let's click on them. You can see now that they have their whole squad is in the game because we've loaded all players from the UK. So they are playing in level 9 and they have their whole squad available. So you can go in and check out every single one of them and see if any of them are worth picking up. Then you have places in Scotland, for example. So Let me think of a team who's not playing. Cowdenbeath are not playing in the Football League anymore, are they? So Cowdenbeath playing in the 4th tier. Load them up. They have a full squad as well. Do you see the difference between loading just a small database and custom loading to suit what you need? And it is so important it's what you need. If you are playing in Germany, for example, you want to load countries like Poland and like Belgium, like Czech Republic, all of these countries that are kind of around the nation I always try to do. So France, for example, I'd load Belgium, Switzerland, Spain, I'd load the UK. It's all about personal preference. I can't tell you the exact nations to load. I can't tell you the exact database size to do. But you should always have it selected, in my opinion, on large and then customize which continents or which regions or which nation you want to load players from. Now, I really do hope that gives you just a brief idea of the best way to set up your FM26 database. Comment below what club you are going with. Comment below what setup you're going with. And hopefully you enjoy FM26.